The recording is in progress.
Mm.
Yeah, I'm looking at yeah, this is a book here I'll have to read. I think, okay, my notes are still longer than the trivia, but they're like competing with each other this
I
week.
well, I mean, if you want, you can give me some of the trivia if you don't want to say all of it.
No, I'll do all of it. I mean, there is
All
no
right,
prologue. There's no prologue. So,
that's all good.
you could describe the plot if you want, although it's just like it's a
I
Christmas Carol plus the UN.
yeah, I don't know.
That could be your
I
description if you want.
I'm never good at the off the dome thing like Luke is.
Right. Maybe I'll just describe it that way. Because the trivial takes so long. It doesn't it kind of takes up the time for
You
the
just tell me to summarize, and I'll just say A Christmas Carol.
oh, before we get rolling too hard, let me go grab my phone just so I can look shit up if I need to, because using the internet and recording Zoom on this computer is not usually the best idea.
Mm.
Also, I'm tangled up. I came back.
Hello.
Oh, are you just not moving? Or are you freezy? No, you're just not moving.
Am I
Okay.
not moving? I wasn't moving for a second.
You actually just weren't moving. You're still not moving.
And I just froze.
Okay. I guess off we go then. You can freeze and I'll start the
I
show.
mean, you probably see the ceiling fan in the background moving, so it probably doesn't work.
Oh yeah. Make it stop.
No,
Hmm. Why? What is it hot there or something?
it's just to circulate air
Oh,
because
okay.
because I live in a big room and there's like vents sort of across the room, and then sometimes I use a space heater and I need the
I
air
live in a
needs
room
to
of
even out.
vents. My room is all
Yes,
vents.
yes, I'm not like one of those losers in an unvented room.
Mm.
Vents everywhere. Probably get putting mold all over the place.
Mm. Welcome to Time Enough Podcast. It's where we get into all the episodes of the Twilight Zone and beyond. This is Matt here. There's Mark there.
Hi, it's special guest Mark for
Yeah,
special Christmas.
this is a very special episode, Time Enough Podcast. It's not the Twilight Zone today. It's not even one step beyond. It's Carol for Another Christmas, which I'm gonna guess. Were you? Did you know this existed?
Nope.
Okay.
I mean, nobody did for 48 years, right? This wasn't that how long it was in the vault,
Yes,
in the Disney vault?
you are correct. Which I will say in the Disney Vault. Yes. Which it was in the Mank Vault, the Vault
Yeah.
of Mank.
Yeah.
Probably. Yeah.
Sounds smelly.
Okay. I will just get right into this trivia because we started 5 minutes late because I had to like write a book, and
Mhm.
yeah, and I skipped major actors in this because half of Hollywood is in it. Half of acting is in it. There's lots of Brits too, isn't there?
Yep.
Okay, off we go. Usually I don't do that directly into the mic, but it was for effect. It's a rhetorical trick.
I think you're gonna explain everything that happens.
Original air date was December 28th, 1964. It was the first of four TV specials meant to educate viewers about the UN. It would not air again until 2012 on Turner Classic Movies. Script is by Rod Serling, which is kind of why we're doing this here and now. Merry Christmas, y'all. As we were saying,
I'm enough
Joseph
for
L.
Christmas.
Yeah, yeah. As we were saying, Joseph L. Mankiewicz directed. While this is his only television credit, he almost literally produced half the movies made in the 30s and 40s in Hollywood and picked up directing and screenwriter Oscars for A Letter to Three Wives and All About Eve, consecutively in 1949 and 1950. And if you're wondering, Mank was his brother, as you know, the writer of Citizen Kane and subject of the David Fincher film that I won't be rewatching anytime soon. Sorry,
Brother of
folks.
Mank.
I will be watching The Killer again soon, if anyone's wondering. But yeah. Speaking
So
of
Killer
which,
better than Mank. Got it.
but Sterling Hayden was in The Killing, not The Killer. Sterling Hayden stars as Ebenezer Daniel Grudge. He had already appeared in The Asphalt Jungle, Johnny Guitar, and The Killing. As with several other cast members, he was in Doctor Strangelove the same year, and Hayden would later show up in films like The Long Goodbye, The Godfather, and 1900. Ironically, Hayden did not particularly like acting, and he used his paychecks as a means to go off sailing. The Ghost of Christmas Past was played by Steve Lawrence. He was in a comedy duo, Steve and Eddie, with his wife, and later Edie. I'm not from the 1950s, folks, sorry. And later appeared as manager Maury Sline in The Blues Brothers. Eva Marie Saint was Lieutenant Gibson. Her career dropped her in Uber classics like On the Waterfront and North by Northwest, just to scratch the surface. As of this recording, she is still alive and kicking at a spry 99 years old. Pat Hingle was the ghost of Christmas Present. Like Eva, he started his career in On the Waterfront, was one of Clint Eastwood's dudes, showing up in Hang 'em High, The Gauntlet, and Sudden Impact, and closed out his career playing Jim Gordon in the Burton and Schumacher Batman films. Robert Shaw was the ghost of Christmas Future. He was a capital A actor. He did tons of Shakespeare with the Shakespeare Memorial Theater and the Old Vic, but of course, us film buffs know him as Doyle Lonigan in The Sting and Quint in Jaws. Imperial Me was Peter Sellers, Dr. Strangelove, Inspector Clouseau, Being There. We all know these things. This role was a rebound from a nasty heart attack that he had the same year. You may have more recently seen him blankly smiling and staring off into nothing in Peter Jackson's Get Back documentary. Britt Eklund played Mother. She was married to Peter Sellers at the time and later showed up in The Wicker Man, The Good One, and The Man with the Golden Gun. Okay, I got through that. We were discussing, there's no prologue to this, so the story is It's a Christmas Carol plus the UN. Is that accurate?
Yep.
Enough? Okay.
So it's a Christmas Carol, but the UN is God.
Right. Yeah, I was drowning in the trivia of it all because that's my job. So I'm doing film guy here. You said you were getting more into the UN/imperialistic divide of the 1960s.
Yeah, I was pretty curious how this whole thing aged. Not well.
It's very fascinating though. Like
some of it's very interesting.
Some of it's a lot of it's well done, and then some of it is just like weird social studies class diatribes by a relatively biased teacher.
it really shows you. I think it does a great job of illustrating how entire generations can just sort of just shift from left to right or right to left without really necessarily having to rethink their values.
I mean, I remember one of my first jobs out of university was teaching in the South Carolina woods, teaching environmental science. And I do remember driving down country roads and seeing all these signs like, no UN in my life, like anti-UN signs, which in 2002 seemed like really bizarre to me. I don't know why. I mean, it was a redneck stance I was looking at, just to be clear.
Yeah.
It was next to, the Flaming Church of God and Hellfire.
That's still a thing, and I think it's still a conservative thing, but I don't think that the left is really pushing for like interventionism anymore.
Not
at all.
So much.
Yeah, I don't even though obviously there is that dumb thing where pretty much every congressperson voted to go to war in Iraq for something that had nothing to do with Iraq, but or very little to do with them.
I mean, I guess the UN hasn't been completely successful in stopping wars as we see now, or in the 60s, or in the 80s, or in the 90s, or
yeah, you notice that none of the ghosts really say we have to stop war. The ghosts are more like, well, there's war, so are you gonna help or not? It's almost like war is almost treated like death and taxes in this scenario, which is sad. I mean, I understand Rod Serling, he was shaped like super shaped by World War II. And that probably would make you feel like war is, I mean, and you know, war is kind of, it's still going. There's still plenty of war. But apparently our luck sort of the US's luck in these type of things uh went on a little bit of a downslide after Korea. And I don't think Korea was considered all that successful, except it, you know, did
Well,
juice their economy up.
it technically is still going on if we're looking at
Yeah.
treaties or the lack thereof.
Uh-huh.
It didn't
Yeah.
end, man.
But I
So
also don't feel like the ghosts would care all that much about whether the war ended or not. It seems just like we just gotta stay there.
I mean, at least
Um,
public perception wise, I guess the most involved I remember the UN getting is, well, yeah, Korea, I guess, and then Kosovo or whatever in the '90s, Serbia, all the that Eastern European. I remember seeing a lot of blue UN helmets or whatever.
I think I saw a film about Serbia once.
I guess maybe America broke it a bit when with the second Iraq war, because I think the intention was to do that, and but nobody wanted to go. Um, so now that's just when we went to Team America World Police.
Yeah, that'll make an interesting double feature with this.
Yeah. Sure, why not? But
um, but
yeah, there's like 8 cans of worms, I guess,
that,
if you want to break this down politically.
yeah, it's very difficult. It's difficult. It's fun to talk about because it's really interesting. This is fascinating, but I feel dumb because I don't know I don't have a bunch of talking points where I could be like, and this is why the ghost of Christmas past was wrong when he said this, or
I
right when he
did.
said that.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
certainly didn't get that deep into thing. Well, I don't know. Let's took it quotes I wrote. Oh, he called his nephew. I thought that was like a diss. Yeah.
Wait, did you get the whole? Did you get the thing about how he was originally called Barnaby Grudge, aka B Grudge, but the studio thought that it was just shots fired at Barry Goldwater, so they made him change it.
Sure.
So I imagine Rod Serling was just like, just smoking a cigarette, being like, idiots.
Anyway, I thought Grudge was pretty on the nose in the first place. So it's
Yeah, you
probably
thought that was you thought that was on the nose. Oh
um
yeah, I think that was probably better not to have him be Grudge.
I guess I got it though, because I having recently watched Oppenheimer, my note about him is this Senator Strauss?
Yeah. Well, I was like, is he supposed to be the Grinch? Because the Grinch came out about 10 years before
Well,
this, or
he's
the
supposed to
book
be the
did.
Scrooge. That's obvious.
But I mean, Grinch sounds a lot like Grudge, so it's just yeah, okay.
Well, Grudge sounds like a like horror movies now, right?
Yeah. Well, that's a different
I will
Grinch.
I will say Grudge rolls better with the ghost life than I remember Scrooge ever doing so, because I remember in Christmas Carol productions and movies and stuff, I seem to remember Scrooge flipping out whenever a new
Oh,
ghost shows up, and this guy's pretty like, oh, there's another one.
this is absolutely the most uh dead inside Scrooge that I've ever seen. It kind of it got to work because it's kind of impressive, right? Because there was so much sort of screaming and melodrama in this, and then at the end he's like, you know what, i'm gonna have I'm gonna have breakfast in the kitchen, and that's
Yeah,
sort of it.
yeah.
He
My
doesn't
final
freak out
note
at
is
all.
he's still just getting served by servants working
Uh-huh.
on Christmas.
Yep.
I was like, is
The
that really an
credits roll
improvement?
over. Yeah, and they do not look happy at all. They don't look like they give a damn where he's eating. Like, oh, whatever, great.
Yeah, it's
You
not
know,
like they're happy for Tiny Tim or something. They're like, here's your damn coffee.
I mean, chances are if he's not eating in the kitchen, they can just relax for a
I was about to
second.
say they'd probably rather him not be there.
Yeah, it's but at the same time, it's a light touch in a genre. I mean, can you call Christmas Carol movies a genre? Because I think you kind of can,
I
right?
almost think you can. I mean, the Christmas
Yeah,
movies counts as a genre. That's why there's always the like, Die Hard's a Christmas movie. It's in that genre. Ha 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 ha.
yeah, and there are probably less movies about a guy fighting his way out of a building than there are Christmas Carol movies.
Every Shane Black movie is a Christmas movie.
Well, sounds like he did that on purpose. So
Iron Man
way
3,
to
Merry
go.
Christmas.
Way to go, Shane Black. Thanks for that gift of Iron Man 3.
Well, if you really appreciate it, send him some lines in the 80s. You'll beam them back to the 80s for him.
Yeah. I anyway, did he ever make a Christmas Carol movie? He probably did.
I
Anyway,
don't have his filmography in front of me.
this genre is usually punctuated by a screaming and highly agitated Scrooge who then is super glad to be alive and but it does kind of keep that
Daniel
hallmark
Gretsch
of
had
these.
3 scotches before this started going.
They do have the hallmark of he's not really that phased until he asks whether he is alive or not, which is
Right.
always a thing with these, which
Which he's already not told
sometimes
how far in the future it is. But I guess his butler is not that much older, so
it's one of those things that always kind of annoyed me about this. It's like the worst thing that could happen is that it's the future and you're dead now.
wouldn't you
Eh,
rather be dead in this world? This is one of those worlds where the survivors, are envious of the dead.
oh no, I'd I'd be okay in this future.
Okay.
I could scream me over and over. I think I could do it.
Could you wear a 10-gallon hat that says me in capital letters on it?
Yep. Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah, I tell you this, I wouldn't waste a bullet shooting a guy who's up on a ledge. Probably aren't that many bullets, right? I
I
guess
don't
we're
know.
jumping ahead now to the end of the film.
Well, yeah, the galactic core of this probably is Peter Sellers' performance with Oliver Reed on the sideline. So, do you
Yeah,
want to
that's
put a pin
very
in it or get into it?
let's put a pin in it because I do have a
Okay.
lot to
Yeah,
talk
we're
about that
obviously
part.
not going to get out of this without talking about that. So,
Yeah, that's very interesting.
I will just
So
scroll up my notes away from that, and then we won't get there for a while.
so yeah, the opening is, Marley is dead in this version of A Christmas
Right.
Carol.
Marley's always dead,
And
isn't he?
yeah, but he doesn't show up.
He doesn't show up in
He's
chains and
dead,
stuff. Yeah.
dead.
Yeah.
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 He could
Well,
have.
he hallucinates him a few times.
I think that he was in the movie but got cut out.
Like a military uniform is like its own set of chains, man.
Yeah, it is. It's a bunch of yeah, you're what are your pips but a bunch of chains.
Yeah. Okay. There we go. So somebody loves that we said that.
But yeah, there was a bunch of lecturing at the beginning, which, I kind of get it, but it's also interesting that it's just welfare. It inextricably, connects caring about the welfare of man with going to war in other countries. It's just that's just the whole thing. And so it's tough because, man, maybe we shouldn't always go to war in other countries, but it's also just I don't know what it's like to live in World War II. That's got to mess you up.
Yeah, Grudge
And
makes the Brotherhood of Man sound like a crappy band that plays at Eat to the Beat at Epcot Center.
Rod Serling, if somebody had
We're the
showed him, hey,
Brotherhood of
we're gonna
Man.
be if if somebody showed Rod Serling like, hey, we're in Afghanistan for 20 years and it didn't do any good and it probably made things worse, then he would just he
Shrug
would
and
just
smoke another
smoke
cigarette.
a cigarette and say idiots.
That was his go-to move, I'm sure.
I'm painting a picture of the guy I want him to have been, but I don't.
Okay.
He was probably pretty sick of everybody's dumb stuff by then. Because 1964, right? We're what third season Twilight Zone here?
No, we're past that. This is like maybe between fourth and or I guess they're in the middle of the fifth season by this point. So Twilight Zone's almost finished at this point.
I like how confident his narrative is, even if it's a little wordy.
Oh yeah, this thing's definitely together. It's like working out the politics of it's like the briar patch.
Yeah.
because it's just, I
But
guess it's just coming from such a different frame of mind than we have now, because we look at things and say, oh, social norms have changed, but this seems more like a DNA way of thinking thing that just doesn't
mhm.
quite compute in 2023. I mean, it's like how you can't really read Dante's Inferno without like notes, because he's just talking about politics the whole time. If you know what he's talking about, it's fascinating. If you don't, it's just a bunch of like words.
Yeah, there sometimes I watch comedy anime that I don't understand at all, but I just watch it
Laugh at it
anyway.
anyway.
You laugh at it when something wacky happens and you just assume that it's supposed to be funny.
Yeah. But
um but then we go to the A bomb, and that is treated like maybe that shouldn't have happened.
maybe that shouldn't have happened.
So at least it's treating it like it is a complicated bunch of stuff.
What are the quotes I wrote down here? We have no war is anybody's war. Um,
Mhm.
Oh yeah, peace is putrefaction. That was good. I guess that's it.
Yeah, that's good.
He had already done purity of essence earlier this year, so now we're on to peace is
Yeah.
putrefaction.
Well, um, did you look up when the Vietnam War started?
Oh,
Because
that's a
our America's involvement was August 1964, and this aired, I assume, December 1964, right?
yep, by Jim Morrison's daddy.
Yeah. So by Jim Morrison's wait, what? What did Jim Morrison's daddy do?
Started the did the he was the general for Gulf of Tonkin. So you could say he
Weird.
started the Vietnam War. Well, maybe that's why Jim Morrison was
He
so
he's
pissed off at the system. He's like, my
Do
dad started the war, man.
you think "Come On Baby Light My Fire" was just like a sarcastic response to his dad starting the fire of war?
No, that's when he said, "Come on, baby, bite my wire,"
By my wire.
which
Come
I
on,
believe
baby,
happens in the Oliver
start
Stone
my
film.
quagmire. I don't know. Sorry. Um. Anyway, pretty interesting timing. I think this would have been a different conversation 5 years after this, because I cannot imagine. I don't know a whole lot about later Rod Serling stuff. I haven't watched a whole lot
We're
of
gonna get to Night Gallery eventually,
Gallery.
so
Yeah, but I haven't watched it yet. So I don't know how he feels about
he
Vietnam.
starts
I
looking a
feel
little
like
more like a hippie.
that's cool. So
One of
yeah, I
his
assume he's not into to Vietnam very
one
much.
of one of his last screen. I mean, him showing up on screen. Not that he was an actor, but he showed up on screen a fair amount, right? Not here,
Hmm.
but it was maybe Ironside, and he shows us up as like a hippie wizard or something.
Well, cool. Is an
So
Ironside a Western?
no, I did the TV show, detective show, I believe.
Hmm.
I mean,
All
yeah,
right.
sorry,
I don't know anything about it.
we're not in the realm of shows I've actually watched. When I want to get my Serling fix, I go for the Twilight Zone or Night Gallery, or
Check
this for
it.
this
Check out when we
Christmas.
do our Ironside podcast
Right, just the one episode. It'll be a
in
one episode
20
podcast.
2355.
Yes. Will we have robot voices by then? Now
Yes,
I am the Iron Side.
we will have AI do these podcasts for us for all of
Forever,
eternity.
forever,
My estate will fund AI
forever, forever.
$20 a month to have AI record podcasts on every TV show in my voice like this.
That's gonna be a thing
Yeah.
before in
Oh
20 years.
no.
People are gonna put out
Yeah, I've
entire podcasts where
predicted
they
it's
just
something that shouldn't exist.
yeah, there's gonna be TV show
Well,
podcasts
I
of
mean,
the ghosts of Christmas podcasters doing it.
there's already have you seen the whole thing how you go to YouTube and there'll be a video that says somebody like Christian Slater tragic death or something, and then you click on it and it just is an AI reading facts about Christian Slater or
I
something
haven't
or
no no
someone. And
no
there's just
YouTube
channels that are
still
nothing
shows
but
me
that. They say tragic death and then a celebrity that's not dead, and then you click on it, it's just an AI saying things about their life without talking about them being dead because they're not dead.
no, I have not been lured into that rabbit
Like
hole.
thousands of people have subscribed to these. I assume because they think they're funny, which I think is funny.
Let's
But
see. YouTube currently wants me to watch a Space 1999 episode I've already seen.
hmm.
Every roller coaster at Tokyo Disneyland and Tokyo Disney Sea.
Oh,
10,000 every day you survive in a grocery store. What?
Have you seen the new Top Thrill Dragster 2 footage?
There's a lot of ride throughs. I guess I've been watching ride throughs recently.
Top Thrill Dragster 2 looking pretty sick.
Okay. Poorly aged 90s commercials. And I'm looking at a shot of the Twin Towers with Halliburton over it in red letters. I might be watching that
All
one later.
right. I mean,
Hey,
I just looked there. There's
that
a
fits with
new
the vibe of this movie, doesn't it?
yeah, I have a bunch of synthesizer stuff and roller coasters and Star Trek stuff and obscure karaoke and
Which actors have had a tragic death?
um
Just Christian Slater?
I bet I could say actor death and it'll just show it to me.
Oh, but
Oh
then
no,
you're
it's showing
searching for it.
actually dead. I mean,
Okay.
I posted the link on Facebook, so I just have to go to it. But
Oh,
like,
okay. Anyway, let's roll back into this because we're for once I might say we might be too far off the rails. So why don't let's
AI,
go ghost by ghost. The ghost of Christmas past.
he's
Uh,
from the past.
question
He
mark. I said that with a
oh,
question mark. Yeah. No,
what
no, no,
about
no,
him?
no. I don't know. I interrupted you. And I should have just let you keep going. Um,
Oh, so okay, Jack Nicholson. 5 minutes ago, died on way to hospital. Jack Nicholson. Farewell, Tim Allen. Your courage and talent will be deeply missed. Uh, Christina Applegate. Your courage and talent will be profoundly missed. Breaking: Simon Cowell, 64, identified in tragic news.
oh,
Country star Tom Selleck, who touched hearts, passed away last night. Fans deeply mourn the loss.
so all these people are
R.I.P.
alive.
Country actor Howie Mandel, who passed away last night. Fans in
Mm.
tears. Just in, 78-year-old Rod Stewart identified in sad news. 10 minutes ago, Arnold Schwarzenegger is in a tragic condition due to a stroke. 33 minutes ago, died on the way to the hospital. Goodbye, bounty hunter. It's Doug the bounty hunter.
Okay.
7 minutes ago, en route to the hospital, we bid farewell to the legendary Kurt Russell.
Is this
10
one
minutes
way
ago.
AI is trying to take over society?
It's just so
Because we're
stupid.
not going to expect it. We're not going to expect how it takes over.
10 minutes ago, regrettably, 62-year-old activist Michael J. Fox has been identified. And then there's a picture of
He's been
like a
identified.
funeral.
Okay, good.
This picture of people like carrying a coffin, a bunch of people in a funeral procession, and then Michael J. Fox's picture is sort of posted in front of them, like photoshopped in front of them in two different places. And it says on the front of that, it says Michael J. Fox was a very good person.
So they got a coffin and pallbearers in 10 minutes.
This is so funny, dude. I can't. Yeah, now I have to stop. I'm just sending you the link to that, and then I'm gonna close this. But
Get rid of that. Um, maybe the Ghost of Christmas Past is supposed to be funny because he's played by a comedian, but then he's on a death ship, so that's not so funny.
nothing was, I mean, okay, nothing so far is funny.
As well as nothing so far.
Nothing so far is funny. It's sad. It's not. I feel like it pulls some punches. There's something. Someone says there's children with no faces. We don't see children with no faces.
No, the makeup couldn't handle that one.
Kind of
I guess
metaphor. I don't know. Just put a shroud over their face.
because they're like they all died for their flags. I'm like, just get a flag at Target, and if there is no Target, as there is at the end of this, just make one out of leaves and a branch, and that can be your flag.
Did I? The first thing I wrote on my notes was, "This will not be as brutal as I want it to be," and that's exactly how I felt. Like I wanted it. This could have been super hardcore, and it was just not. And that's fine, but it could have, because it's the whole thing when you're airing something on TV and it's kind of like you have you're sort of politically uh morally correct doing stuff and it's supposed to be educational. You can get pretty raw with stuff. You know what I mean? I feel like it could have been more metal than it was.
Yeah, I mean, it felt you did a lot of the educational films with me when I used to look at those for the podcast, and
Mm-hmm.
this has a lot of strains of that. I thought a lot about the Red Nightmare, which was Jack Warner's production around this time, with
Mm-hmm.
kind of also bizarre politics.
Yeah, it feels like Red Nightmare. It's you know, I could, there are several episodes of the Twilight Zone that are more harrowing than this film is,
Oh
even
yeah, I
though
mean,
it's in the
again,
Christmas Carol genre, which
I
is
keep I keep
usually,
spitting out Death's Head Revisited, which is like probably one of the
yeah,
more brutal half hours of TV you're gonna find
yeah,
anywhere.
and it does like the whatever the dialogue does kind of do the Death's Head Revisited thing for a couple of times where it's sort of just someone telling it how it is, which is fine, but it's not as hardcore as that was.
Right. No, but
But I don't
yeah,
know. I'm not really complaining about that. It's just sort of it's just what it chose to do.
I wrote a note that I guess was my take on the flavor, which I wrote during the Christmas past section, which is Serling/Sterling now my social studies teachers, which I have a degree to teach social studies actually, but I should be my own social studies
Yeah.
teacher. That degree is probably out
Do
of date by this
you
point.
feel what point in this film do you think that it was do you feel like anything was getting through to Grudge at all until it came time for him to wonder about his own death?
Well, I guess he was
Is it
stewing about things in his post Scotch haze.
he was kind of arguing like hey, it's Pearl Harbor, dude, Pearl Harbor. What are you gonna do? It's Pearl Harbor. It was a different time. We were Pearl Harboring super hard,
Well, wait a minute. We do see the kids without a
and
face, basically. I mean, we after we get off the boat, we go straight to a. That's a pretty hardcore situation. You know, the burnt out plains of Hiroshima is pretty hardcore, isn't it?
yeah, I mean it went there. I just felt like it could have gone. Felt like it could have gone a little harder, but
Okay. I mean,
that's okay. It was not really. The thing is, I'm sort of comparing this to other Christmas Carol movies, like Mickey's Christmas Carol, where like I didn't
Scrooged.
feel anything. Yeah, Scrooge to an extent too. It's like some of that stuff was genuinely horror.
Because yeah, for that I wrote down the note watching it last night. This may be one of the darkest scenes I've ever seen when they're in the children's field hospital.
Yeah,
So I mean, they went there a
it's
little
like
bit.
I've seen some of like the nuclear scare films. Like
I
I
mean,
saw The Day After when it came out. They didn't go there.
that's
They didn't do
TV 20 years
Threads.
later. Yeah, that's TV 20 years later in both cases.
That's true.
So,
Absolutely true. Yeah, it's fair.
but like you said, if you have the
But
feeling that some
arguably,
Twilight Zones went harder, then obviously there'd be a
yeah,
point to that. But yeah, I'm gonna just have to throw out that for
oh,
that little bit, I think they were hitting the vibe that you're talking about. And then they come back and
yeah,
it's time for Imperial Me and stuff. So, which where the pin is still in for, I guess.
yeah. Mhm. We still have to get to the present.
Right.
But
That's my yeah.
I really like the line. He's wait, damn it. I skipped ahead with my notes by mistake. Never mind.
I was just gonna be like in that scene though.
Withdrawn.
Ava Marie saying she's fine, but it did kind of paint out like gee, this story doesn't really have a place for female roles, does it? Unless she's like a ghost.
No.
It was it is who's one of the ghosts in Scrooged is played by a female actor, right?
Well, this is completely missing the love story that usually is in these.
Yeah, I need to watch.
No,
Maybe this is the year I finally get back and watch Scrooged. Yeah, it's time to do that. It's been a
I was
while.
thinking about rewatching Muppet Christmas Carol, but Scrooge is probably a better idea because it's been longer
Yeah. This not
for
being
me.
Scrooge, of course, but do you want to get to the present?
Sure, let's get to the present.
Are we going to put the
This
past in
is
the past?
yeah, let's take the past and just
The
ball it
present
up
with
and
Commissioner James Gordon.
Commissioner Gordon laying it down. It's so weird. I looked it up because I was like, he was in all four of those movies, right? It's like him and Alfred didn't change, but then it's weird how there were a few actors that kind of carried over, even though to go from Burton Batman to Batman and Robin is like an unrecognizable
Great work if you
change.
can get it.
I mean, why not?
I
He's great,
would.
Commissioner Gordon. I mean, he's not Gary Oldman, but he's
No, that's what I'll
Gary
say. It's not
Oldman.
Gary Oldman
Not,
or
he's not the greatest actor of our generation, Gary Oldman, or in top five.
what is in
But
the new one? Jeffrey Wright's the new one.
oh yeah, Jeffrey Wright, also one of the greatest actors of our generation.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Pat Hingle lesser than Gary Oldman, Jeffrey Wright.
Yeah. That's
I think Gary Oldman
God.
has weird politics, so I don't know how he'd do in this movie.
He's getting up there. I think he's just one of those.
Old
Maybe
men.
not. Maybe not. Not as old as Eric Clapton, but I think that Eric Clapton is probably worse than him. So,
No one's as old as Eric Clapton. That's not
well,
true.
he's got to make sure to stay alive long enough to make sure that his dead kid can't recognize him.
Right.
So the song comes true.
Hmm. Well, he probably looks different now than he did in 1989.
Yep.
Hmm.
Also,
Okay.
heaven isn't real. Anyway, Pat Hingle, doing a great job. I love him in this. He's
He's
doing
fine.
great.
What I really loved was that set. If you that's on my tripometer. The minimalist set, and then there's like giant sections with tons of people just suddenly lit. I'm like, okay, that's cool.
Yeah. So the thing is, my notes. I don't know where the demarcation point is between present and future. My
He
notes
walks
is,
through a
which
door.
sucks.
He's just it keeps being like walk through a door. Every place is another place. They said something like that.
I think I took a lot more notes about the future.
Okay, no, that's fine. That's where we are all to live the rest of our lives. So,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
um,
We only get future, nothing else.
oh, I did like that he tried to do the tablecloth trick and did a worse job than Pete Bakeman in Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
Of course, maybe you know what it made me think of that table flipping game.
Oh yeah. There's a there are like three of those in Atlanta now. Isn't that weird?
Yeah, it was such a novelty when it was here 10 years ago, wasn't it?
I know two different arcades that have table flipping games.
Well, it's a good game, I
Yeah.
guess. Well, it's fun to watch. I actually have no urge to play it, but I like to watch people play it.
It's once you play it a few times, you kind of get it. You never really know if you did well. Like a bunch of numbers go up.
Does it give you tickets or tokens or anything?
I don't think it's a ticket game.
Okay, because that'd be fun if you then you know how well you did. So,
Maybe. I mean, I don't know. Tickets are so fickle, ticket games. But I don't know. This
um,
new arcade has a flaming finger that dispenses tickets.
okay,
Remember flaming finger?
I have a lot of hot take notes about the Ghost of Christmas Present.
Okay, please
So,
hit me with them because I didn't take enough.
okay, you should I start with the more sane ones and work up to the
Yeah.
okay, let's see. This ghost isn't wrong, but he is getting insufferable, to be honest. uh, present ghost is a statistical downer, statistical dump. Damn him and his math. Uh, the
the
ghost of Christmas present just wants to vax everyone. That's a quote from Eric Clapton.
the 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 some did he say time happened here, Mr. Grudge? Was that his line or somewhere? Did I skip ahead to future already?
I'm not sure if I even wrote that down.
Okay, well, never mind.
Yeah.
I noted that it sounded like he said Mr. Grudge.
Okay.
That's
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
helpful.
Yeah. Now I'm getting into my future notes. So,
Okay, no,
what?
this totally future because it says calendars are past tense now.
Okay. Yeah.
I think Robert Shaw kind of like got more into my
Yeah. I mean, we
into
were
Pat
about to
Hingle
get.
thing.
I mean, Pat Hingle, great. All respect to Pat Hingle, but we're about to get to Robert Shaw and Peter Sellers.
Uh-huh.
So let's do that because we've just been like chomping at the bit to do it.
Yeah,
Which
I made a note that Robert Shaw seemed like someone who did too much cocaine and then cut it with alcohol to take the edge off.
that might be true. For what I understand, he was
Yeah.
not necessarily completely acting in Jaws.
Yeah, I didn't wasn't there literally like bad blood between him and Richard Dreyfuss for the entirety of the rest of his life, and then his son made a play about it, and then Richard Dreyfuss was mad at his son because he kind of made Richard Dreyfuss look like a jerk in the play. You know what I'm talking about?
I don't, but it's a fantastic
Yeah,
story.
we'll get into that someday on the Jaws episode of something.
So yeah, we go into the town hall with Oliver Reed in the town hall. It's all nuclear burnt out. I gotta love a good apocalypse set. It made me definitely think of the late '30s movie Things to Come, where you see the burnt out town. I don't know if you watched that one when it was back.
No. It really just to me was like, oh, we're doing Mad Hatter now. So suddenly it turned into an Alice in Wonderland film, which is really pretty fun.
Well, it might have been the apocalypse thing, but I picked up on Sellers as kind of a proto Mad Max villain.
Yeah, I mean he's a good Mad Max villain. He's a good it's just really the vibe of the when the Scarecrow shows up in Dark Knight Rises, where he's sort of doing a court thing.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
The scene that was supposed to be Heath Ledger, but Heath Ledger died.
Right. Anyway,
You know,
that they got that going in that movie. That's
it's
one of the reasons
Batman
people
villain stuff.
Yeah,
It's
Batman talk today.
Classic Batman villain stuff. Featuring Commissioner Gordon's not here anymore.
No, but he's in the present. We're in the future now.
Yeah, he's now dead. The line where he says, where are we? He's like, the leftovers of the craps game after they rolled the H-bomb and nobody made their point. Great line.
Yo, fantastic. I'm glad you wrote that down. Oh, here's another one just for the Trekkies, which some of the listeners here certainly are. I also thought about Q's courtroom scene in Encounter at Farpoint had this kind of vibe.
Yeah, and the obsolete man courtroom also. Because that was felt like weirdly tall. Yeah, I absolutely got Q vibes from this too. It's just, classic villain thing, even though I don't know if he really does all that much villainy, but
he just seems so insidious, he's using a microphone that's not plugged, that's got a frayed cord, and then offers it to other people so they can talk through it.
but I also was just like, they basically just invented Twitter. It's basically Twitter.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Well, no, I think it's more X because it has to go get more nuts.
The best line I saw about that, and forgive me if I've done this on another podcast, but someone reported it as Twitter, currently known as X.
That makes even less sense. Okay.
No, that makes a lot of sense. They're just saying that X is just what they're calling it now for now.
Yeah, all of the the under the hood stuff still says Twitter.com. Yeah, you still tweet.
Yeah. So. Yeah. You have to pay people to update your website. You can't just change some of it and then call it something else.
Think of how much time you'd save if they did change the web address, because then on those many occasions you want to visit twitter.com, you would just do the letter and it would be easier.
I think someone else owns it.
It's probably a porno site.
It redirects to twitter.com.
Oh, okay. Well, someone
redirects to twitter.com.
Someone did their job during their 72-hour shift.
Oh boy, you know what X just told me? Marvel just fired Jonathan Majors.
They didn't already?
Oh, they just did.
Okay. Who tragically died?
I don't know his victim. I don't know.
Oh, I was asking on Twitter.
Twitter
doesn't
I don't think Twitter doesn't. I'm not following that on Twitter.
Not yet.
Not yet.
When we get some more bots in there, maybe.
If his victim is listening, I'm sorry. I believe you and I apologize. You're not dead.
Okay. What is the quote?
No, really, here? I do believe you.
Oh no, the actual Sellers quote here, Imperial Mead quote is no. It was the what was the butler's name? Ben? No.
I didn't get it.
Maybe they didn't give his name. I don't know, because he makes like a really good speech. He was absolutely cool. But then he says, "I can't let you kill me," and runs off and gets in jumping position, then shot. So
he was cool. I mean, he was good.
Well, he's cool up until he said, "I can't let you kill me," and ran away.
I can't let you kill me is a weird line. Yeah.
Then he died.
I think it's a weird thing when you're sort of just, all he's doing was saying you should get involved, and then you're sort of fashion yourself as somebody who's super important. We don't know how much of the country is like this. It'd be funny if that's just all the people on Earth are just in that one town.
And then of course it's the kid in the cowboy hat that actually shoots him.
That's
Not
always
Sellers.
Yeah. Yeah, wasting a bullet. How many bullets do you have? Seriously. Can't have that many bullets left.
I bet they can find bullets. They don't. I mean, they definitely don't seem clear how isolated or not isolated they are. You know, they're we might be the only people, but then they talk about meeting other people and driving them away. So obviously, at least there's some mutants out there.
Well, isn't this always a problem when you're going to do something futuristic, but you can't make the whole thing about the future? Is that the problem with scale is you can't explain the entire world to the viewer in the amount of time that you have without everything just grinding to a terrible halt. So we don't really know what the world is like. We don't.
Right. Well, they don't either.
I watched like one episode of Walking Dead and then stopped, but I'm sure that eventually you get some idea of what that world is like over the course of 300,000 episodes.
Although to be honest, I watched the first episode, never got back to it as well. So
yeah, one good, but
hey, that's Midtown Atlanta. Okay, cool. Or is it downtown? It's been 10 years since I watched that.
I mean, it was funny. I my favorite thing was how it said "Don't open dead inside," but it looked like it said "Don't dead open inside" because
the
words weren't spaced out all that well. Don't dead open inside.
Okay. In the
Walking Dead thing where you could read it horizontally or vertically, but you probably would read it the wrong way.
Yeah, yeah. When you have things with an unclear reading order, that's exciting. Hey, you should try Japan, where things are written all sorts of ways. Sometimes it's backwards, sometimes it's up and down. Yeah. Trend. I hate it when it's. No, I don't, because if you want to use the photo translator, it doesn't work. your photo translator doesn't know how to do that right.
Ah, damn. You'd think they would have figured that out by now. Because I mean, I had the early version of that the last time I came to Japan, which is 11 years ago.
I mean, that's the traditional stuff. So most of the time you don't need it. But yeah, a few times I've had like a sign at a park or something, and then it's written that way, and then it's like, well, I ain't translating that. And it's like all kinds.
I use it on arcade games like all the time, and they never do vertical text. So
nah, it's probably
not vertical,
not in the code. Yeah, computers don't understand up and down.
Well, it's not great design, I don't think, to have text going straight up and down on a horizontal screen.
We are getting back to this. We are at basically peak sellers, I think, because 1964 is Strangelove, Shot in the Dark, him having a massive heart attack. That's all 1964.
Wow, that's nothing says peak like that time you have a heart attack
and show up in two classic films. Although I feel like Shot in the Dark isn't quite as well regarded these days. Am I wrong about that? I just feel like
I've never seen it.
Okay, it's good, but I haven't thought about the Inspector Clue so much recently. Did they finally did they water it down by trying to cast his son multiple times?
His son?
Well, there was it Benini that tried to be the Pink Panther or Inspector Clouseau once, and then Steve Martin did it for a couple.
Steve Martin is who I'm thinking of, but I don't know. I feel like that franchise was sort of just beaten into submission. I just saw the first, like most people our age, I watched the first movie thinking it would be a cartoon panther, and then it wasn't, and I was.
And Peter Sellers is actually barely in that one.
I was disappointed at the time. I've watched it a couple of times since. Wow, there are a lot of other ones. Hey,
yeah. The second and third ones are my sweet spot for those. Shot in the Dark and Strikes Again, maybe. I don't remember. It's been a while. Basically, my aunt was obsessed with those movies when I was a kid. So as a kid, I just saw them out the wazoo, but I haven't watched them recently.
Yeah. I bet I'd like them more now than I would have when I was expecting it to be a cartoon.
Target early 70s ones, I think, is the right spot.
Yeah, it's but they anyway, back to what we were watching.
Sellers.
Oh, no, I found the dead celebrities again. I don't know how that happened.
Because later, because I remember later, maybe in high school, discovering Dr. Strangelove, and then my aunt didn't like that so much because it was too hardcore for her. But now I'm obviously not obviously. There's some Inspector Clouseau fans, but I mean, Dr. Strangelove is kind of like a seminal work. I think.
I mean, that's much more of the type of movie that I like than any of the Pink Panther stuff.
Yeah, people have not forgotten Dr. Strangelove, where I'm sitting here wondering if people have forgotten the Pink Panther,
Yeah, I just think that there would be I feel like bringing the Pink Panther into the modern era would be very easy. and maybe it's just not a it could have been something like it just gotten tied up in all those MGM things and just ended up in
I think there's quite a bit of
hell.
you just Sellers was bringing the magic sauce to that role, maybe because of his
Yeah.
weird blankness. How familiar are you with Sellers?
Medium, I guess.
Okay, he
I
was a
don't
weird dude. Like
I,
apparently he had no personality.
well, that's I've kind of heard the same thing about Phil Hartman.
Yeah, that could have been the case, but yeah, with Sellers,
Yeah.
it's like I mean he got married and divorced several times, basically because his wives were like, "There's no one home."
That's
That's
very interesting. I
that's
mean,
why
also, what's his name? From Portlandia, Fred
Fred
Armisen.
Armisen, yeah.
Do I really? I strongly dislike him. Like I don't. I can't even tell you why, but I don't like looking at him.
I
Like
like
I don't like.
Portlandia, but yeah,
I've I've
I,
watched 2 episodes of that and I hated it and I never laughed and I did
I
not
always
like
felt
it.
that way about Reba McEntire for some reason, and I don't know why.
Interesting. I mean, I could definitely see that being kind of a weird empty vessel person.
Oh, I don't know if she's
Kind
an
of
empty
hot, but
vessel or anything, but
I
I'm
don't
just
know.
like I know for
Oh,
some
that's not what you're
reason,
talking about.
yeah, I just have a weird aversion when I see her on a TV screen. It's not even her fault. I don't know what it is.
Hmm.
Maybe she seems too much like the bless your heart sort of lady. That might be it. I think
I
that's
mean,
it.
I used to feel that way about Hugh
Bless your
Grant, but
heart.
then I saw Hugh Grant in the Dungeons and Dragons movie, and he was so good in it.
Oh, he's having a wild second act of his career, I guess. Cloud Atlas. That's
Third,
a great third
uh,
act. That was
I
10
need to
years ago
watch
now,
Cloud
but
Atlas.
yeah, he's good in Cloud Atlas. Very weird in Cloud Atlas. So,
And I
um,
heard now he's all the Oompa Loompas.
is he? I thought about
Mhm.
seeing Wonka yesterday, but I went to the onsen with Maddie instead.
I heard he's all the Oompa Loompas, and apparently he hated like every second of the experience. But then the director said something like he cast him specifically because he's a jerk, because he gives off that vibe. So I'm like, that sounds pretty compelling. I mean, I
Weaponize
don't
it.
know.
Anyway, what I was saying with Sellers is one, look at his smile as Imperial Me. I mean, it's weird and
Mhm.
blank, you know? He's doing that ridiculous accent, which he was a master at accents, but that's why I brought up the Peter Jackson Get Back documentary. I guess you didn't watch it because it's 9 hours the Beatles, and I don't think you're that deep on the Beatles, but there's
It's I haven't watched it. I might watch it at some point. It's not like super. I'm not dying to watch it. I'll put it
anyway,
that way.
there's a scene where Peter Sellers shows up. The Beatles were friends with him. One of their famous bootlegs is like called the Cellar tapes, where they did like White Album demos on Sellers' boat or something. I don't remember, but
Hmm.
he shows up and it's like, oh, hanging out with the Beatles in the late '60s, and of course that documentary makes it look more like a fun time than the Let It Be one did. So, but yeah,
Hmm.
Sellers just in the background, like smiling like a loon, staring at nothing, and you get the impression that it's weird. He's like in the hippest place ever. They like him. He's there, and he's like it looks like he's, I don't know. It's so weird. That's why I would put my favorite Sellers is Being There. Have you seen that one?
Yeah, I have seen that. That's a great movie. What I was gonna bring up as far as evidence of him being weird is the opening scene of Lolita. Always, I've only seen that movie once, but that definitely made a huge impression on me. Like his whole shtick at the beginning of that is weird.
Yeah, that whole movie's pretty weird,
And the
especially
whole
watching
movie's
it
weird.
now.
I mean, it's not. I mean, as I understand, it's not like a fantastic adaptation of the book, but I don't really know. I got a copy of the book for free at some point
I
and haven't
would
read it.
put that out as I would suggest that as being Kubrick's worst movie.
Hmm.
Unless I don't know, maybe the first couple experimentally documentary sort of ones might be, but as far as like
Yeah.
actual proper theatrical releases, I put Lolita at the bottom of the pile because Barry
Hmm.
Lyndon at least ends up being so bizarre, and it's one of those movies you can just start it anywhere. Like I was saying
Yeah.
with Zodiac, I think Barry Lyndon's another one of those where you could just start that movie anywhere. It doesn't matter.
I I think my feeling when I was watching Lolita in general was that it sort of was too quaint for the subject matter, but I didn't want it to be less quaint than that.
Mm.
I know there's a more recent one with Jeremy Irons, which probably is better, but also I kind of don't want to watch it.
Yeah, it's not really an appealing story to watch one, and
No.
I have Lolita on Blu-ray and I've never watched it. So just because I got a
Yeah.
Kubrick set, you know.
Yeah.
So
It's one of those things where I think you're supposed to hate Humbert, but maybe it's not the best.
we
Like
end up hating
no
everybody in the
adaptation of that.
movie in the end.
Yeah, it was not like it doesn't do the best job of making you not identify with him at all because it doesn't really give you a protagonist.
That's why 1964 is peak sellers and not 1962.
Okay.
I say Kubrick has not peaked yet, even though Doctor Strangelove is great. His comedy peaked in '64, but again, that's maybe because he had a comedian and three starring roles, the same comedian.
When do you think that Kubrick peaked?
I mean,
That's a tough question.
we just had the discussion. I'm a dork for 2001. Uh, I guess I'm just gonna be lame and say 2001. But that's the tricky thing because he made some great stuff after that, of
Yeah.
course, like really great stuff. Like I can't
It's
say The Shining is a peak, you know. The Shining
I
like
don't know
feels
if
like post peak in like a good way, and Full Metal Jacket feels like it's post peak in a good
yeah.
way, and Eyes Wide Shut is just insane.
I I was lukewarm on Eyes Wide Shut, and
When's the last time you watched that?
the first time I watched it was a year ago, and that was the last time I watched it.
Okay, that's enough to yeah.
It
I'm not. You don't need to reassess it then if you watched it last year.
it was good. I just think I was expecting more from it. I was expecting it to be bigger, and it's a very small story.
I mean, the
And
Kubricks I'm going to put on are maybe Doctor Strangelove, definitely in 2001, The Shining, and the first half of Full Metal Jacket.
I think honestly, Doctor Strangelove is my favorite Kubrick movie, but like technically, he wasn't really doing anything with it compared to a lot of his later stuff. So it's hard for me to, you know what I mean? It's like how my
Well, it's
favorite
made
Tim
to look.
Burton movie
It's
is.
it's made to look kind of cinema verite, though. It's kind of
Yeah,
intentional, you know, because Kubrick was coming kind of from a documentary or a photography film set mindset. So,
yeah,
uh, I think Doctor Strange was a nice pivot point for him where he kind of gets to do his old stuff, and you know, like they of course they didn't get the military's help for that movie, but they did like kind of try to sneak information and then build the stuff accurately, which is kind of funny. Um,
I mean, there's almost nothing I like more than a dry, like pitch black comedy with absurd like highlights. Yeah, it's just that's my favorite type of thing. Shin Godzilla,
did it
same thing.
translate? Did it translate with you that I mean, if we count the fact that Sellers played three roles, you get like half the leading cast from Strangelove in Carol for Another Christmas because you know
Yeah.
we got Jack the Ripper himself. So
Yeah, pretty much. I was trying not to get obsessed with his performance, and I don't think I really. I also going snapping back to the future, like we were talking about earlier. I had pointed out that after everyone just started yelling "jump," that it turned from Twitter into 4chan. Um,
I'm fortunately in the case. I mean, I hear the words 4chan thrown about a lot, but I still don't really have my head on what it is or what happens there, which is probably for the best.
mm, I mean, it's just a terrible message board with terrible people in it. I mean, there's whatever.
Yeah.
Some it it's whatever. I don't know what to say about it. Like I'm sure there's some fun that was had there, but and I hate to say, oh, it's shorthand for bad
Mm.
because that's kind of annoying when anything when anybody does so with anything. Like, I'm comfortable saying that next door. Next door is just bad,
Mm.
but you know, but
Okay.
also you go to next door to find out whether your neighbor is on fire or not. Sometimes.
Well, this future town's one where you need to go check if your neighbor's on fire or not. So I guess it
Yeah,
makes sense.
yeah. Next door would just be a post. It's like this idiot said that we should talk to people, and they tried to jump, and I shot him. And then all the comments are like, idiot.
Jump.
He should have jumped."
Okay.
Uh, well, anyway,
Um.
that felt a little incomplete. That whole thing. Um, but Robert Shaw was doing a great job of chewing scenery. The all the times that Peter Sellers wasn't on screen.
Yeah, I was about to say
Yeah.
they did such a that was quite an epic battle of very different tones, both trying to choose the scenery, like not quite at the same time, but almost at the same
Yeah.
time. because definitely different tones between the two performances, which is
I
great.
Yeah, that scene could have gone on longer, but it probably went on longer than the other two scenes.
Yeah,
So
it did. Well, they were just like, I think they knew this was their money.
yeah, or their UN membership.
Yeah.
It was
Um,
basically this is sort of like a thing. You said there were four of these to try and convince people to join the U to
they wanted to
support the
make
UN.
6, but the last 2 did not actually get made or didn't air or both.
Hmm.
So the
Do you
idea
know
was to do
anything about the
6 of them.
others?
I we started 5 minutes late, so I didn't go down
Oh,
any particularly deep. You can search that if you would like, but
I will see if I can find anything really fast.
oh god, this is a time enough podcast. I guess I need to throw out a few questions. If
Oh
anyone
yeah.
went through something resembling the Twilight Zone, to which I would be like,
Mm,
I feel like A
yeah.
Christmas Carol kind of is the proto Twilight Zone story, like the archetype for the general that or O. Henry.
Yeah, it makes sense. I yeah, the Scrooge always it's like no matter what it's like the Spider-Verse and no matter what happens, Scrooge always goes to the Twilight Zone.
Especially for the in this particular production, the Ghost of Christmas Present felt very like in the Twilight Zone segment. And you
Mm-hmm.
mentioned the vibes of the obsolete man. So yeah. I
And
mean,
there
now I'm talking the
anything,
production, but as far as
yeah.
just, I feel like Ebenezer Scrooge and Daniel Grudge, they always go to the Twilight Zone. So
Yep. They always go to the Twilight Zone and they always deserve it.
I was about to
And
say, I
they
was like, should I even bother asking that question? Of course, Scrooge deserves it. So of course, Grudge deserves it.
if
Um,
anything, he got off easy. He just sort of saw some things that were enough to mildly upset him.
in the end,
Maybe.
he apologizes to his nephew and doesn't even remember doing it, basically, because, oh, you called me at 3 a.m. Did I? Yeah, you said to come over and you'd apologize. Did I? Okay, I apologize then. It's like, that's weird.
It was just one of the ghosts impersonating him. Like,
And then
hey, you're gonna want to come here.
and he woke up passed out on what, his front step or something. What happened there?
I I
The
don't
exit,
remember exactly how that
his
happened.
return to his house from the Twilight Zone was notably weird.
It feels maybe not entirely formed if we really get
I was
into
about
it,
to say, I
but
was like, maybe they didn't quite know how to wrap this up.
they I guess they felt like it would be unearned or weird if he was just like, "Whoa, no, thank you, nephew. Let's join the UN right
Merry Christmas.
now. I got you a some hemp, young man. I don't
You can
know.
smoke it. I guess you can't actually smoke hemp, can you?
I got you a bomb to drop on the people of Vietnam.
I got you a bong-shaped bomb.
I got you. Yes, I got you a skull of a child that was killed by American forces.
That would be a
Oh.
dark ending. Is that the darkness you were looking for?
I don't know. There's Scrooge has to. I don't. What would it look like if there was a Christmas Carol movie where Scrooge just didn't learn anything? I guess that would be funny.
That's almost Scrooged. That's why it's a fun movie.
I
He
don't
does in
remember.
the end, but
Yeah, I feel like
he's
he
Bill
does.
Murray, so he
He,
has to. That's the story, but like you said, but he does get the Bill Murray through most of the movie.
it makes sense. It makes sense that it was just one night that he wouldn't learn that much because in Groundhog Day he had to
Took
endure
him like
thousands of
thousands of
years
years.
just to learn how to play the piano.
Yeah.
I mean, really,
Oh, come
come
on, it's not
on.
that hard, is it?
He should,
No, it's
yeah,
not that hard.
seriously.
Okay. I mean
He
the
he
piano part.
seriously, I could learn to play the piano in like 1 year. I mean, come on.
Yeah. Especially if you're just kind of like playing boogie woogie. Wasn't he just playing boogie woogie in that movie?
Yeah, I mean, I have mixed feelings about that movie because it basically, I think, assumes that you achieve nirvana when you have sex with your coworker.
Oh no. The key to that movie is, I think I've said with you on
Oh,
the
it's the
podcast, is
insurance
you
thing.
buy the insurance. Once you buy the insurance, you get out of the loop.
I mean, I like that better, but I don't feel like that's what the movie's saying.
We'll have to watch it again and you'll decide that's the case. Um,
Okay,
let's trip a
that's
meter this one.
ooh, hmm,
I'll go
three
first.
point five.
Okay, I was going a little higher than you. I was thinking 4.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking Christmas isn't that trip. Oh, it's a little trippy, especially if you're eating the mushrooms that look like Santa. Um, then you're gonna have a real trippy Christmas. But I would say a Christmas Carol probably is the trippiest corner of a traditional Christmas. So
This is how I feel: is that Grudge Grudge's perception was not altered all that much by this experience. Like, I think for a high tripometer score, you have to have like someone kind of destroyed by the Twilight Zone, and he wasn't really that destroyed.
I make that argument a lot, but the things that pushed me a
Mhm.
little higher than 3.5 up to 4 is the Coast of Christmas Present set was extremely trippy. And
Mhm.
Peter Sellers' entire performance was 5 on the tripometer.
Yeah, that if it was just that, it would have been, but it almost seemed to know that you couldn't make the whole, it seemed to want to make the whole film that, but it couldn't do
And
that.
it maybe, I don't know, maybe they should have rethought it a little bit and focused on that. And they should have made Mad Max too early, but they didn't know they could do that because Mad Max was 15 years out. But
but but it's like, what the thing is, and in any Christmas Carol thing, usually if there's a storyline, it's in the present part, not in the future part. You know what I mean? Like,
that's where the Red Nightmare
or
vibe comes in.
there might be a little bit of a story in the past, but this the structure of this is basically the past is stuff that has really, it's only stuff that he talked about. The present is sort of just hanging out for a minute with no real structure, and then the future is a story.
Lots of food
So
though. A lot
it's,
big spread there until the ghost
yeah,
destroys it.
yeah. I mean, we,
Yeah.
you gotta have food in your present.
Mm.
I don't know. You gotta have food, except for no
You
food
better
for
eat that. There are
before.
people starving right over there.
Yeah.
Not children
Yeah.
starving in Africa. They're right on the other side of the room.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's, yeah, it's a very strange, it's a strange choice, but it's like, you're clearly, they were just like, well, give Peter Sellers a character and a story. He has an arc, kind of. It's just like a short line.
I mean,
You know.
take the Christmas out of it. Take the last section. I did notice on YouTube there was a just watch the section with Peter Sellers video. But if that were a single episode of the Twilight Zone, because that you could work that out to about 25 minutes, a little intro, a
Yep.
little that would be a great Twilight Zone episode, which I guess is part
Yeah.
of the charm of this production. That it's a little wonky. You really have to sit there and break your brain over the politics, but then you just get that like nice pure segment of insanity.
Well, the whole thing is that if this was a Twilight Zone episode, what would they cut? They would cut all the conversations, that all of it. You know,
Well,
it's like, it would be easy to cut. You cut all the stuff where people are in a room talking about politics. The whole beginning with the
well, you'd
nephew.
have the Red Nightmare set up. He's being nasty to his nephew and his help.
Mm-hmm.
Still, that's fine. And then maybe he has his Red Nightmare, and the Red Nightmare is just that segment. That is,
Yeah.
so it's I mean, it's still got the Christmas Carol template on it, but it's no longer as Christmassy because that there's nothing Christmas about that segment.
I would argue, yeah, there's not a whole lot about Christmas. I
In
mean,
any of the
the
segments,
Japanese
really.
thing isn't very Japanese. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
actually,
mean,
yeah.
wait,
There's not a
Japanese
lot of
thing.
Christmas
The
in this.
Japanese thing isn't. I meant to say the Japanese thing isn't very Christmas. Not that it wasn't very Japanese.
Okay.
Sorry.
I no, I was just having the realization of how little Christmas at all is in this. Do you even? I don't think we see
Yeah,
like a Christmas tree in this, do we?
that was just,
Not that we
that
need to.
that
I'm
did
just
not occur to me until just now either. But yeah,
there's like
it's
no
pretty interesting.
Christmas imagery in this, which is actually kind of cool. Or
I think that's more
little
what
Christmas
Christmas was
imagery.
like in the 60s. I think maybe it was a little later when people
Lame,
started
boring
just
Christmas.
really like piling it on or maybe Serling was just trying to do this light touch thing here, which, was good.
Good
It's
in one
pretty
way.
lame when you just have to scream Christmas at people and shove trees in their face and everything. It's like, and you could argue that that a Christmas Carol movies are usually more about just life and about capitalism than they are about Christmas,
Mm.
because you could take that story and that structure and apply it to anything really. Like,
Yeah.
Christmas is not I don't know. The birth of Jesus is not really an integral part of any of the Christmas Carol stuff for the most part. It's more like, hey, this is a time of year when you should not be a garbage person. So stop being a garbage person on this day that you should be better.
Tomorrow, Boxing Day. You
Yeah.
can box people.
Yeah.
And either
Box
way,
their ears.
you can box their ears, or you could put them in a box or whatever. Just yeah, you'll be a garbage person on the 26th.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's returning your presents. Is that what that means?
Gee, I know people we can ask.
Hmm.
I guess we will wind this down. It's time enough podcast on Patreon. We're on Podcastio Podcastius. Of course, we do this usually with the Twilight Zone Films and Filth, where we talk about really good movies and really bad movies. Doctor Strangelove coming up in the next few months. Boop Boop video
Oh,
game
it's a
podcasts with Luke Loves
sorry.
Pokemon, Hyrule Field Report, and Game Show. Yes, yes. Go ahead.
Boxing Day is a day to give gifts to poor people.
Oh, okay. So okay, then I guess you can start being an artist on the 27th then.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go. Glad we got that worked out.
Yeah, that's very important. Happy Boxing Day, everyone.
Happy Boxing Day. Don't let the
God box
Christmas
us, everyone.
don't let the Christmas ghosts get in your bed.
Unless they're Robert Shaw. I bet he was a monster.
Too bad Brett Eklund wasn't a Christmas ghost.
Oh God.
Okay, that's the real cut.
Yeah, we got to make Luke watch Jaws.